Moving forward, rivalry game, a terrific rivalry. We have the SMU Mustangs on the road at the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU is a 6.5-point home favorite, has an over-under of 63.5. They are looking for a good old-fashioned shootout here between former Southwest Conference foes. This game kicks off at noon Eastern on FS1. Kelly, I love rivalry names and rivalry trophies. It's a sickos thing. I love following it. This is the battle for the Iron Skillet. It is the 102nd year, but this is a commodity that is going out of fashion. In fact, this rivalry will not exist likely after the 2025 season. Sadly, TCU called it off. Not because they weren't winning. They are 24-8 in this game since 1989. SMU has taken 2 of the last 3. Of course, before last year's edition of TCU, the Horned Frogs have seen better days. But SMU won both those games on the quote-unquote road across town from Dallas to Fort Worth. They won those games in Fort Worth. There's a cross-metro rivalry. I do love this a great deal. We are going to be dealing with some wind here, especially for North Texas. We're talking 15 mile an hour or more, sustained winds, higher gusts. That's when you start talking about impacts to the point totals. Rain can affect point totals if it's really, really coming down in sheets and it's just a sloppy mess. The wind is what gets you here. So do keep that in mind. And Kelly, this is not your father's SMU Mustangs defense. They're stout. They held Oklahoma to 28 points. 14 of those are scored in the final frame. This game ended 28-11, just like we all projected, with a 74.5 point total or whatever it was. The game plan was clear, though, for the Mustangs. Hold the ball to limit Oklahoma's explosive potential. The Sooners right now, number 1 passing game in the country. And that's when things open up in the fourth quarter a little bit. 28 of the 39 points were scored in the final frame. I still don't think we know that much about TCU, to be honest. Their defense was blown out of the water, and they looked really unprepared against Colorado. I thought that was a coaching malpractice on both sides of the football. And then they went and played 2 really bad teams. I'm talking Nicholls State, who's outside of the top 90, I think, in my FCS ratings, and then Houston. Houston is in a world of trouble. They're a bad football team, and TCU ended up beating them. Like I said, the play calling on both sides of the ball has just been dreadful. I think it makes hiring Kendall Briles worse. He already carried a lot of baggage, and now he's not delivering so far. They're 114th on early down EPA on defense, which means they are allowing teams to get into third and manageable rather than third and long. But on offense, on the other side, they are 51st in third and fourth down success rate. So late downs, they're not calling great plays. Defensively, they're getting killed early on, even with 2 what I would consider bad offenses. But I think we'll have a pretty good data point to use for TCU, at least a second one after the Colorado game after this one. SMU, on the other hand, this is surprising me. It's all subjective. They don't release their formulas or criteria or whatever it is, but SMU currently is the number 1 pass rush according to Pro Football Focus, at least in terms of their grade. They have 45 pressures through 3 games from their front 7 alone, is in terms of minimum at 10 pass rushes. So I'm not including the rotators that came at the end of the game. They had 7 sacks against Louisiana Tech, though, so these numbers might be skewed just a little bit from some of their competition, but I thought they looked pretty solid against Oklahoma. TCU's offensive line, I'm not really sure if it's great. They haven't had any tests, and they lost a lot of guys to the NFL after last year. And then Chandler Morris, the quarterback, under pressure. Listen to this. 3.55 seconds to throw when he's under pressure. Kelly, that is way too long. The internal clock for a quarterback should be 2.5 seconds. 1,001, 1,002. By the time you finish saying 1,003, that ball better be out of your hand, especially when you are playing a good pass rush. He has 2 turnover-worthy throws, 5 yards per attempt flat, and a 43% completion rate when he's pressured. That's not great. That 43% completion rate is bottom 30 in the nation. Of course, he's a lot better when he's not blitzed than when he is blitzed. We're not talking Patrick Mahomes here. So I think SMU is going to pin their ears back and get after him and force him to make throws and hold on to the ball too long and maybe get some sacks here. One other discrepancy too. TCU is one of the most penalized teams in the country. They have the 13th most penalty yards per game right now, while SMU has the 12th fewest penalty yards per game. So if we're looking for a razor-thin edge, one team has a propensity to shoot themselves in the foot with drive killers, and the other team does not.
Yeah, Brett, you said you like rivalry games. I love rivalry games. It makes me sad that this one's going away after 2025. Let's enjoy it while we have it. This is the Sonny Dykes Bowl, man. I have TCU minus 3.5. It's a 60% win expectancy. Despite a couple wins in a row, my model is still disappointed with TCU this season. The Horned Frogs have been downgraded about 1.5 points since the preseason. They've fallen from number 20 to number 29. The offense is down from number 15 to number 22. But it's the defense that has been worse than expected. They've fallen from number 37 to number 56 for me. They've already played Houston in conference. I will say that the schedule sets up nicely for TCU to get some momentum with Big 12 games upcoming against West Virginia, Iowa State, and BYU before they have the meat of their conference schedule in the second half of the season. So they get this one, and then they pick up a couple Big 12 wins. This team could be feeling really, really good before entering that back half against some really hard opponents in the Big 12. So this is a big kind of hinge game for them. If they get it, good things ahead. If they don't, they might have missed an opportunity here. This is the only remaining regular season game in which my numbers project SMU to be an underdog, my favorites in the American. The Mustangs have been my favorite every single week. This week is no different. SMU has a season high now, 74% chance to host that title game. Remember, in the American, the number one seed or the team with the better conference record hosts that game, which is a big deal when it comes time to being able to play that on your home field for a chance potentially, as it's turned out recently, to be the New Year's Six representative from the G5. SMU is up 4.1 points in the ratings compared to last week. That's the fourth most in the nation. And they're up 5.5 points from the preseason. They now rank number 32. That is the best of any G5 program. Of course, they're not going to be G5 for long, joining the ACC next year. The offense has been about what I expected. Top 30 unit, that's the best in the American. It's the defense, though, that's been much better than I expected. TCU's defense has disappointed the model. SMU's has impressed the model. I projected this unit to be number 92 in the preseason. Shame on me a little bit, I think. They are now top 60. If SMU finds a way to win this one, they will be the clear-cut favorite to be that G5 New Year's 6 representative. But I have TCU minus 3.5. It's a 40% chance that SMU pulls off the upset on the road, I'll say, because as you said, it is just across town, but you're going into a hostile environment against a rival. So even though it's only a quick, 30-minute drive or less with traffic, it is still going into a hostile environment, and they certainly wish they were playing it at home. 40% chance they get the win.
You say shame on you for the defensive projections, but if your model was capable of projecting 30 spot swings and improvements on defense, mind you, a team that gave up 63 points in a victory last year, then you should go get a lottery ticket. I don't think it's shame on you.
It just bothers me when I see swings of 30 plus spots in rankings. Now, again, a 30 spot swing in a ranking is not necessarily a big swing in a rating. I'm looking behind the scenes of this one. It is a bigger swing in the rating. And yeah, I know you can't force us everything, but it's only been a handful of weeks and I've seen that big of a swing. It means I missed, or it means they are just simply that much better than everybody thought. It's probably somewhere in between. I just don't like being that far off in the rating, let alone the ranking, this early into the year. If it progresses that way throughout the year, and oh my gosh, this team they just ended up proving me wrong. Great, I'll live with that. This early, I don't like to be off by that much. It's just part of it.
That's fair. But remember, Sportsbooks hung a 74.5 point over-under for that game, or at least a 70 point over-under for that game against Oklahoma, and they scored 39. So everybody's off on it. If we're really boiling it down to the basic elements, we have a quarterback that is not great against pressure, facing the current top pass rush in the country, skewed as though it may be. I would call that not ideal. TCU's defense has been pretty good on late downs. They're able to get off the field on third and fourth down. And SMU actually has not been putting it together on those early downs. I do think the Oklahoma game is a big looming kind of skewing data point there. So we'll see as they go. But as the numbers have it right now, TCU does have the defense, or the advantage, being able to get off the field on third down and force those third downs. The market liked SMU. This number is down from plus 7.5 at open, but then it hit 5.5 and 6, and then it rebounded, and now I'm seeing TCU back at 7 in many places. I think I'd lean TCU with the points because the win's going to affect the passing game, and that's where TCU is really vulnerable the most on defense. Again, maybe skewed a little bit from the Colorado game, but I'd lean probably TCU with the points, and then I would also probably lean the under. I know TCU likes to run the ball; they're pretty efficient with it. But if we're talking about weather issues here, and we're talking about a pretty high over/under, those are my leans. I don't actually have any plays in this game, though.